are expectant of explaining the 37 virtues, which is considered as the supplements, as the compulsory practices for anyone who is aspiring to attain enlightenment. Now, in the Buddha's eyes, this saṃsāric cycle of birth and death has no beginning and has no end. Therefore, Buddha compared this samsara to a circle which has no clear beginning and end. And in this beginningless and endless cycle, the most experienceable and obvious inheritance that we have is misery. Infinite misery that we are experiencing in life after life. And the sad factor is that while we are experiencing misery, we are aspiring bliss, joy in the midst of this misery. But in comparison with the joy and happiness that we experience in this life, the misery that we are going through is like a speck of happiness to a mountain of misery. So, in the Buddha's wisdom, Buddha says that we have to, or it is ought to, understand that the nature of misery in the life. That doesn't make Buddhism a kind of negative or kind of a religion which is based on misery. It is to understand the truth as it is, as the reality of the life that we are all experiencing these types of never-ending sequence of misery, of birth, aging, sicknesses, death, getting what we don't want, losing what we want, associating with the ones we hate, dissociating from the ones we love, being disappointed in our expectations, in our aspirations, endless, repeated sequence of misery that we are going through. And in the midst of all these miseries, we are in the pursuit of happiness. We are pursuing happiness in the misery. But ultimately, what we find is that we are pursuing misery because all what we expect to have is going to be disappoint us, going to make us more and more unhappy and sad, what we are expecting to make us happy and blissful. So life, as a basic rule, is a misery. Dukkhe loko patittito. Buddha says life exists on misery. Why Buddha try to convince us this much of negative idea of life? That is the reason. Now, if somebody is sleeping in his home and the home is burning, that house is on fire, he doesn't know that his house is going to collapse, going to destroy. He is happily, blissfully sleeping in the house. Someone comes and tell him, let's go outside. It's so beautiful. Why don't you come and see? It's so beautiful outside to your house. But he is so useful, he is so familiar with the environment of the house. So whatever idea outside of this house is not acceptable to him, because the house is what he knows. So he is bound to reject any kind of suggestions to go out of the house. All he knows, the house. And he is so blissfully sleeping in the house, no matter what kind of suggestions about the outside is given to him. And somebody comes and shout him, your house is burning. It is on fire. Come out, come out. Now, there is a possibility for him to be mindful, aware of that burning of the house. Misery brings us to have awareness. In misery, we are aware. We are mindful. Yeah. For example, I have seen when people sit down for meditation, when they are cross-legged, sometimes they are not used to sit like that, cross-legged on the cushions, on the floor. Misery arises, misery starts. They try to change their postures, to get out of that cushion, because it is so miserable for them. But actually, if they really focus, they can understand that their mind is exactly in the present moment in that misery. If they are sitting on a very comfortable armed chair, comfortable chair, their mind is gone here and there. Body is so relaxed and comfortable. Do you think they can concentrate? Do you think they can focus? If they try to focus on their breathing or any kind of continuous activity, they fall asleep. But in the cushion, on the cushion, while they are sitting in that posture, cross-legged, they cannot fall asleep. In misery, we are more focused, we are more mindful. So when somebody shouts, your house is on fire, there will be a possibility that you will pay some attention to that. Buddha is shouting, our house is on fire. This body, from the very beginning of its particular life, the birth, till the moment that we depart from this body, we are going through thousands, hundreds and thousands of misery. Buddha says, be aware of them. Be aware of them. If you are not aware of them, you will never put any effort to get out of it. Even a slight effort will not happen if you are so blissfully ignorant about the truth of your life. That's why Buddha begins with dukkha satya, the noble truth of suffering. The path begins for the nobility with the understanding that life is a misery. Not just this life, in an endless, from the both sides, from the beginning and end. We are moving from one body to another, experiencing the same misery. And in each life, we experience misery and we aspire bliss, joy. Since that particular life is not fulfilling our aspirations, then we have aspirations for our next life. Since we are not fulfilled these and these expectations, may we have my expectations fulfilled in the next life. Maybe in the heaven. Maybe becoming somebody more affluent, somebody more powerful, more wealthier than in this life. May I be able to fulfill my aspirations in my next life. Lifetime to lifetime, we had that aspiration, we had that expectations. That's why the divine realms, if you are to read the descriptions of the divine realms that each and every religion created in all these countries, you can find those divine realms are never equal to each other. Yeah. For example, if the country of that religion exists is suffering, tortured with cold weather, their divine realm is bound to be quite warm. If the country that religion exists suffers with hot weather, that divine realm is bound to have some cool weather. What you don't have here, you project to have in heaven. All these are human projections of desire to have what you don't have in this present life. So the heaven is the aspirant goal to have what you don't have in this life. But the unfortunate thing is, even in heaven, nobody is satisfied there. Even while they are experiencing bliss and joy in whatever heaven they are currently living in, yet they are in fear because one day, as their positive energy is waning out, they are falling down. Angels falls, sometimes falls from heaven to hell. Nothing is forever. In the Buddhist world system, the topographical hierarchy of the world system is about 31 planes of existence, 31 worlds, 20 Brahma worlds, material and immaterial, and then human realm, 6 divine realms and 4 hellish realms. 31 planes in existence. Buddha says, you are moving from one existence to another in accordance with the baggage you are carrying, whether it is light or heavy. If your baggage is so heavy, you are going to go down to the realms where the suffering is dominant, hellish realms. Are you going to be suffering forever in hellish realms? No, it is also temporary. Once your baggage is, that heaviness is gone, you are bound to come back, come up. Come up to a less suffering realm. If somebody to carry a light baggage, which is so light, you are bound to take a rebirth, take a life in one of the heavens or a Brahma realm. And the longevity in these realms are so long, you are going to live so long there. Eons maybe. And yet, you are bound to fall down, bound to come back. Once your baggage is spent, the wholesome energy that you accumulated is gone, you are bound to fall down. There is no something called eternally bound to any of the realms in these 31 planes of existence. It is always changing, moving from one life to another. We may have been thousands of times in heaven, and we may have been thousands of times into hell. In this infinite process of birth and death in the samsara. Now we have the life called the human life, in which we have the fortune of the revelation of truth of the life. This is a great fortune. We may not know, we do not know whether we are going to have this fortune ever again, that we got the opportunity to get connected with this Dhamma. And in this Dhamma, Buddha taught us very clearly, elucidated for us the technique, the method, the way to get rid of this long process of misery. Endless process of misery. How to stop, how to terminate this and get closer to the final liberation. He tried his best to explain these techniques, these practices with so much of different explanations, different analyzing, to suit each and every individual, to suit to their intellectual capacity. He did his best to explain these things. And in his explanations, he sometimes explained in simple methods, in simple manner on this practice of spirituality, development of spirituality, and sometimes with so much of elaborations, explanations. And when he explained these techniques, these practices to the highest elaboration, he found that there are 37 factors, 37 assistances that one should develop within him in his development of spirituality to attain nibbāṇa. These 37 factors of enlightenment we call in Pali Satta-tingsa bodhi-pakkhiya Dhamma, bodhi-pakshika Dhamma, or bodhi-pakkhiya Dhamma. Satta-tingsa, 37. Bodhi, enlightenment. Pakkhiya, assisting, or pakshika, assisting. Dhamma, qualities, virtues, phenomena. The phenomena of 37 factors which assist one to the stages of enlightenment. What are these stages of enlightenment? The first stage of stream entry, Sotapanna. The second stage is once returning, Sakadagami. The third stage is non-returning, Anagami. And finally, the fourth stage is Arahant, fully enlightened. These stages are reached via 4 paths. These 4 paths are the path of stream entry, wise path of stream entry. Why it is called wise path? Because this path is based on wisdom. As you develop your wisdom, this wisdom is capable of annihilating, eliminating, destroying the bondages you create yourself to the life. For the recurrence of the life, who is responsible? You yourself, because you created those bondages, nobody else. And these bondages are created simply because you were blissfully ignorant. This ignorance created these bondages, and these bondages are so powerful, stout, giant-like, very powerful bondages. Lifetime to lifetime, it was our habit pattern to strengthen these bondages, to make them more and more powerful. And these bondages will never allow for us to get out of the recurrence process of life. We have become so strongly attached to them, bound to them. And one has to develop a wisdom within him. And in that wisdom, he can cut loose those bondages little by little, little by little. But remember, that wisdom has to be strong, giant-like, powerful. Just like the defilements are. Otherwise, this wisdom is not that capable of destroying the defilements. Wisdom must be powerful in the same capacity, in the same proportion to the defilements we have within us. And of course, when the wisdom is getting powerful, defilements are getting powerless, because defilements exist when there is ignorance. What you are developing is wisdom. Wisdom is to see the truth as it is, to see the reality as it is. Ignorance is to see the truth as it is not. When you see the reality as it is not, your reaction is completely wrong. Your response to that reality is completely wrong. You are not really understanding the reality. You are being blind to that reality. That is the function of ignorance. Ignorance makes people blind. Wisdom remove that blindfold, open their eyes. So as the wisdom grows, then these bondages are bound to lose their strength. And he starts getting liberated little by little, little by little. So the path of wisdom is getting deeper and deeper. One who is on the practice of developing this wisdom attains to these 4 stages of liberation, beginning with the stream entry, ending with arahanthood. So the 37 factors of enlightenment. Now, if we are to mention them just by name, today it is just an introduction. We are not going to clarify the factors in detail. Today, just an introduction for a long series of Dhamma talks. So, I'll give you the list of these 37 enlightenment factors. Sattatimsa bodhipakhiya Dhamma. First one, Chattaro Satipatthana, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Second, the 4 right kinds of striving, Chattaro Sammapadhana, right kinds of striving, related completely to meditation. Then comes the 4 bases of success, Chattaro Iddhipada. Again, meditation. How the meditation to be a successful one. The 4 faculties that one has to develop, Chattaro Iddhipada. 5 spiritual faculties, Pancha Indriyani. 5 spiritual powers, Pancha Balani. 7 factors of enlightenment, Satta Bojjhanga, and noble eightfold path, Aryo Attangiko Maggu. Now these are the 7 lists in the 37 enlightenment factors. In other sense, these 37 enlightenment factors have categorized or separated into 7 groups. Yeah. So it is interesting to learn these stuff, these factors of the enlightenment, but I assure you it won't be that interesting. Kind of not so interesting topics, but yet it is so valuable, so important for us to learn and understand what the Buddha meant when he explained the path to nibbāṇa. But keep in mind this, we have another explanations on the path to nibbāṇa, very simplified versions. Now, for example, sila, samadhi, paññā. This is the most simplified version of explaining the path to nibbāṇa. Only 3 terms: sila, morality; samadhi, serenity; and paññā, wisdom. Another one, sila, samadhi, vipassana. Sila, again, morality; samadhi, serenity; and vipassana, insight. Another one, 7 purifications. 7 purifications. Yeah. Sila visuddhi, the purification of morality. Chitta visuddhi, purification of mind. Ditti visuddhi, purification of view. Kanka vitarana visuddhi, purification by overcoming doubt. Magga jnana dassana visuddhi, purification by knowledge and vision of the path and what is not the path. Patipada jnana dassana visuddhi, purification of the way, the patipada, the practice, and jnana dassana visuddhi, purification by knowledge and vision. Now, in these triple instances that Buddha presents the path to enlightenment. So why there are 37? Because these simple versions have been clarified clearly what kind of faculties, what kind of powers, what kind of factors that you should develop on this path to the enlightenment. So it is a much simpler version. Because sila, samadhi, paññā. Sila, of course, it is obvious that the moral background that one should develop, cultivate, when he is even prior to his practice, even before his practice, he should have this moral background. Yeah. Now, in the modern times, especially in these countries, people, when they come to meditation, they don't care much about observing precepts. The moral background is not something they care much. If somebody get into meditation without observing precepts, of course, he can meditate, but the success is less. This moral background or the precepts that the Buddha introduced has 2 purposes. The first purpose is worldly purpose. Morality or the sila is the criteria for someone to be born in lower or higher realms. Lower realms when the morality is disturbed. Your baggage is full of heavy, miserable, karmic power that you generate within you by creating misery for others. When you are morally not stable, it means that your behavior, your words, your actions create a misery for somebody else. And when you create misery for somebody else, by thinking that you are creating misery for him or her, you are creating a greater misery for you to suffer here and hereafter. Heavy baggage goes down from the human level to the lower realms of hellish realms. If your baggage is so heavy, you cannot go up, you go down. So in a simple understanding that based on karmic results also, when you preserve precepts, observe precepts, then you are living a life of innocence. Innocent life that you do not generate misery for others. Then you only create happiness for others, joy and bliss for others. The repercussion is you are bound to be gone to a more and more joyful, blissful existence. So sila is the deciding factor of our promotion or demotion in the saṃsāric cycle. But as I mentioned before, whether it is a promotion or demotion, it is not forever. Yeah? It is not eternal. It is temporary. So sila decides our rebirth, where to happen, higher or lower. This is the general sense. But in the Buddha's eyes, sila is always in the beginning. Yeah, sila samadhi panya, sila samadhi vipassana, and also in the 7 purifications. First purification is to have a purification of morality, sila visuddhi. So sila is always in the beginning, in the practice of spirituality. Because in one sense, to maintain a calm and serene verbal and physical environment, when you are verbally and physically not so agitated, not so aggressive, when you are verbally and physically calm, serene, then that serene surface level of the life help you to have a serene mind, natural. And also, when somebody is not so harmful towards others, when somebody is not creating so much of misery for others, that person has no regrets. Regrets are not there. Regrets are very dangerous for meditation. Yeah? I have seen people who try to practice, try to meditate, try to concentrate, but they are extremely tortured by the misdeeds that they committed in their past. And they haunt them. Those memories haunt them and completely disturb their meditation. They really scared of even meditating because those memories haunt them so powerfully. As soon as their mind is getting calm, those memories come onto the surface and torture them. So it is better, always better to preserve the precepts. So the Buddha promulgated these precepts not just for the worldly benefit of getting a better life in as the next life, but also as a necessary moral background for the spiritual practice. So he always gave this morality, the sila, the first place as for somebody to practice. Yeah. So based on sila, then develops the other factors. So sila comes first. Now, in these 7 groups of enlightenment factors, in the 37 enlightenment factors, the first 4 factors belong to the satipatthana. Satipatthana. Now, there is a famous sutta in Majjhima Nikaya, sutta number 10, Satipatthana Sutta. There is a clear elucidation of the factors one should develop on this development of mindfulness. Sati is to be mindful, to be aware, and also another meaning for sati is that remembering. All these 3 terms are equally important, valuable, and suitable for the word sati. Remembering where you are, how you are, remembering with whom you are. Yeah? How many times we forget to remember where we are, with whom we are, what we are doing, what we are talking, with whom we are engaging with. Remembering or being mindful of what is really happening. Now, this Satipatthana, of course, is focused upon 4 areas and develop upon them. Yeah. But I'm not going to explain on that area. It will be in the next talk. But today, just let's think about this, developing this condition called mindfulness within us. Being mindful to the present moment as it is the simplest explanation for Satipatthana. Being mindful to the present moment. In this present moment, where you are, how you are, what is your posture, where is your mind, what kind of feelings happening in the body. Being mindful, being aware of them, helps one to understand the real self of him as it is. In a general sense. And in another way, this understanding itself is the liberation. People usually forget. It is the nature of our minds not to stay focused, to run here and there, to the past, to the future, especially when the object is not so exciting, not so alluring, not so attractive. Our minds run haywire to the past, to the future. We cannot focus on a particular object and remain there even for 5 minutes? It is so hard. In that 5 minutes, our minds may have run to past and future thousands of times. There is no one is separated or different from that state, because each and every one of the individual or beings in the world, what they have been cultivating, developing, or habituating in the saṃsāric cycle is this: to think this and that. Let the mind go. Yeah. So, such a mind to bring into a particular object and keep it there without letting it go away is something seems impossible. Impossible to do. It is like a wild animal, a wild horse, a wild ox within you, in your mind. As much you try to keep it focused, as much you try to keep it in one particular object, you will find, just like a wild horse or an ox, with such a power, the mind struggles with you to run away. And the struggle of the mind is shown in the body. The body is struggling because the mind is struggling with the singular object. Mind doesn't like singular object. Mind wants variety of objects. Meditation is not something easy to begin. Awareness is not something easy to develop in the initial moment. Especially if we do not have our past cultivation of meditation. But it doesn't mean that it is impossible. Everybody can develop on this cultivation gradually, little by little, little by little. Just as somebody is taming a wild horse or a wild ox, gradually training him to a tamed horse or an ox. Gradually. Not in one stretch of training, but a gradual progress. There's a possibility that one day that wild horse can be usable. In such a manner, our mind can be usable. It becomes a faculty, it becomes an indriya, it becomes something that we can use, just like I'm using my hands and legs, my other faculties. I can be able to use my mind also as a faculty. But it takes time. Buddha says it takes sometimes a lifetime or sometimes number of lifetimes to develop this mind to bring to the ultimate liberation. Lord Buddha, we say 400,000 incalculable eons, he was practicing Chatura Sankhya Kalpalakshya. Such long, he was applying these spirituality to his mind and transforming his mind based on that spirituality. And after his enlightenment, he tried to explain, he tried to clarify the technique that he applied, and he got the liberation. He tried to explain that technique to us. That's what we are trying to explain in these series of talks based on the 37 factors of enlightenment. One day in China, a Zen monk, he was practicing for years and years on a mountain. One of his daily routine is to come down from the mountain to the bottom of the mountain. There is a well, and he fetch water from this well to his temple up there. And he was practicing, and the people heard that this monk got enlightened. He is an enlightened arahant. He is an object of worship. So thousands of people started coming to this mountain to see this enlightened arahant. And when they were coming, what they saw was not a flying monk, not a meditative monk, and people, they came with high expectations that this monk must be now flying in the sky or doing some miracles. High expectations. When they came to see the monk was carrying water from the well on his shoulders to his temple. And they're surprised. What are you doing? We came to see some miracles. You are just carrying water from this well to the temple as usual as before. What is the difference? Then the monk said, the miracle is happening. You are not seeing it. Miracle is going on. You are oblivious to it. Before, I was carrying water. My mindfulness was not established on that carrying. But now, today, I am totally with this carrying water. I am not separated from the action. I have become the action. My mindfulness is totally here. That is the miracle. I have become my mindfulness. I have become my satipatthana. Gradually you develop being mindful on the breathing, on the postures of the body, on the feelings of the body, on the consciousness itself, and on the mental factors. Whatever is happening in this fathom-long body, you are being mindful. Your mind bound to fluctuate, run here and there, because you are not used to it, because you haven't become your mindfulness. But one day, as you continuously practicing, you are bound to become mindfulness, and the mindfulness and you are a singular entity. That day, you are an arahant. That day, you are completely liberated. Satipatthana, for foundations of mindfulness, we will be explaining in our next talk.